This is the Underworld podcast. We're back right now with a special mini episode. But for those of you who want the longer episodes, we'll have one up tomorrow on Spotify, iTunes, and all your podcast places. Look, we've been telling you don't Instagram your crimes forever. And I don't know how many stories I've seen where a gang member or mafioso text or WhatsApp app messages were used against them by law enforcement. But even those who practice solid operational security can get caught up. And this is a doozy. The feds do not play around. It seems the FBI had secretly created an app or like an actual phone device platform called ANOM. I think it's ANOM. That was supposed to be the highest level of encrypted communications. And it was used worldwide by criminals of all sorts to set up deals. We're talking money laundering, massive amounts of drugs, murders for hire, all that sort of fun stuff. Basically, this device, it looked like a regular cell phone, except behind a calculator app was a single function for encrypted messages and photos. Well, supposedly encrypted. The thing is that this was actually built and distributed by law enforcement agencies. And this was made, I guess, marketed specifically towards organized crime groups and their members. According to the New York Times, quote, users trusted the device's security so much that they often laid out their plans not in code, but in plain language, mentioning specific smuggling vessels and drop-off points. And the feds, they have everything. They have it all. The arrests are only just beginning, and already there's been 800 worldwide in what they're calling Operation Trojan Shield, which, I mean, yeah, solid name effort right there. The feds were even the ones who sent the device to the black market, and people fell for it all due to their developer/informant, which we'll talk about in a minute. All these international law agencies coordinated these things into getting on the market, starting in Australia for some reason. So that, quote, more than 12,000 devices to hundreds of criminal organizations that operate around the globe, according to the FBI. The Australian Federal Police were also heavily involved initially, and now they're saying over 300 different criminal groups were identified. Everything from, your standard Italian mafias to outlaw motorcycle gangs to Asian syndicates, all that. And there's just so much info out there. According to NPR, quote, the document includes transcripts of smugglers' conversations in which they name the prices and handling fees and describe their methods. That's the indictment document that the Fed shared. Many of them also sent snapshots to each other showing packages of cocaine and other drugs. They discussed strategies from adding drugs to diplomatic pouches to filling pineapples and tuna cans with cocaine. This is just like another battle in the war between law enforcement and organized crime when it comes to technological advances, especially in communication and with encryption. And the feds, they won this round and they won it hard. The devices started going out in late 2018. If you remember, I think in early 2018, it was when a major encrypted device used for illegal means, Phantom Secure, was busted. It was a service or a device. And according to the feds, they secured an informant who had ties to Phantom Secure. I think he was a developer on it. He was actually working, could be a she, I guess, too, on the next generation encrypted device. And this informant allowed the feds to get in on it on the ground floor for what's said to be $120,000. But I imagine there was probably some charges they were holding over him as well, because who would just do that for $120,000? And I really hope he has some sort of protection or remains anonymous, because there's probably a lot of people looking to kill that guy right now. The New York Times says, quote, the authorities also relied on the informant to get the devices into the highly insular criminal networks. The informant started in October 2018 by offering the devices to 3 other distributors with connections to organized crime in Australia. And since the Phantom Secure bust, there have also been a number of other similar services and devices like EncroChat that have popped up and been brought down, but nothing like this. And in fact, all those other busts drove criminal organizations to ANOM, where it plugged this gap in the market because all the other ones were getting shut down. Quote, before the device could be put to use, this is in a court filing, it said, agencies in the US and Australia were already working with the source to build a master key into the existing encryption system, which surreptitiously attaches to each message and enables law enforcement to decrypt and store the messages as it is transmitted. The devices they sold for, I saw prices quoted $1,200, I saw $2,000, I think it was around $1,700, and they were run through these shadowy networks only through word of mouth and references. Like I said, it got started in Australia and it spread to 100 other countries. All in all, 27 million messages the feds now have possession of. And you can only imagine what they say. And the top 5 countries where this device was used: Germany, Serbia, the Netherlands, Spain, and Australia. 17 countries' law enforcement agencies are involved right now in these arrests and everything that's going on. And according to Europol, quote, a series of large-scale law enforcement actions were executed over the past days across 16 countries, resulting in more than 700 house searches, more than 800 arrests, and the seizure of over 8 tons of cocaine, 22 tons of cannabis and cannabis resin, 2 tons of synthetic drugs, amphetamine and methamphetamine, 6 tons of synthetic drug precursors, 250 firearms, 55 luxury vehicles, and over $48 million in various worldwide currencies and cryptocurrencies. Countless spin-off operations will be carried out in the weeks to come. There's already been 224 arrests in Australia alone, and they're claiming the disruption of over 100 murder plots overall. Something I find kind of hilarious is that, since law enforcement were listening in for years, they actually heard the users, these criminals, complaining about the size of the phone. So they made, the next generation, which was actually a smaller one. And like these guys were more responsive to complaints from customers than like Apple or any of these other tech companies. One of the bigger breaks came with this guy, Joseph Hakan Ayik, who's an Australian drug trafficker, I believe of Turkish origin. He was directing shipments from Turkey. He started using the phone. He's a pretty massive player. He's been indicted, I believe, through a court in San Diego. A fellow journalist in Australia, a guy I know, just told me he heard today that there are so many arrests and people being targeted that the Australian federal police aren't issuing warrants for anything but charges related to the operation. So, between this and the sort of Bitcoin hack, not the Bitcoin hack, but the Bitcoin ransomware payment that they've been able to recover a bunch of the money from, this week has been a bad week for organized criminal organizations and technology. But yeah, tune in tomorrow. We'll have a new episode up. I think it's going to be one that the fans enjoy.